Hello, everybody listening to the Earful Tower podcast. My name's Oliver G, and there are whispers going around that there is a Gothic church stained glass window Renaissance revival going on. And in this episode, you're going to hear me with Bertrand from My Private Paris visiting some of the best stained glass window churches in the universe. Is that fair, Bertrand?
Of course it is fair. In the whole universe.
Now, the idea today, we're sitting, let's set the scene. You and I are sitting in the middle of the Chartres cathedral. You seem kind of excited about this. I think we're in your favorite kind of territory here. Tell me what you mean by this revival that's going on, and are you exaggerating?
We're living a moment that I think will be given a name in art history at some point. It's great we call it revival of the Gothic architecture. We have hundreds of Gothic churches and cathedrals in France, and by the dozens they are being restored at the moment. Of course, Notre Dame is taking all the headlines, but it's not just Notre Dame, it's also all over the country, and here in Chartres, the work is just magic.
So, if I may paraphrase, we're talking about 800 to 600-year-old buildings that were built in this beautiful Gothic style, which I'll get you to define in a second. And then, because they all needed this renovation, and because of Notre Dame, it's all sort of happening at once, and people are flocking to see these stained glass windows and everything. That's essentially it, right? But can you explain, I ask you this on the train here, Gothic architecture. Can you explain it for someone who has no idea what you're talking about?
Yes, of course. So let's picture that we are in the core of the Middle Ages. We're in the late 1100s, early 1200s. There is a little bit of climate warming around Western Europe. The agriculture is through the roof. There start to be a lot of money available. And it's a moment where a lot of the surplus are going to be used to build cathedrals. Every town will try to have the best cathedral, the largest one, the highest one, or the one with the most beautiful stained glass windows. So that is why we're so lucky today in France, is that for about 2.5 centuries, there's a massive competition in the country to have the best looking cathedral.
Did you say for the last 2.5 centuries?
Yes, it's going to last for about 2.5 centuries. Yes. What we call the Gothic architecture.
Right. And is Notre Dame being rebuilt a sort of big catalyst in this, or this is happening anyway?
This was happening already, and Notre Dame has shown both the urgency in protecting this huge heritage that we have, and also is opening new careers. Because it's a specific know-how you have to use to restore places like this, and so Notre Dame has kind of sped up the decision into restoring all this cathedral around France.
Amazing. And this cathedral we're in now, Chartres, which is an hour and a half from Paris?
About an hour, yes, an hour to an hour and a half, depending where you are.
Okay, and then we walked in here, and I've been here a couple of years ago, but you're giving me the tours today. You're showing me everything. But to sort of paraphrase again, you're showing me with new eyes, because even when I walked in, I don't know if I knew how to appreciate the stained glass before, and everything that it means. And I think the idea is today that you're going to give me not just an understanding of stained glass windows and Gothic architecture, but you're going to do a bit of a compare and contrast. Can you sort of wind this up by telling us what you're going to show me today?
Of course, yes. Every cathedral has a key element to it, and in Chartres, it's the stained glass windows, and even more precisely, it's this blue color. Some others, like Amiens or Beauvais, it's the height. Some will be the statuaries, etc. But for our day-to-day, we picked 3 locations that are exceptional for stained glass windows. In Chartres, what is exceptional is the fact that this cathedral was built super quickly for the time, about 30 years. And so we have a very coherent structure. And also that 80% of the stained glass that we admire today, they date back to the early 1200s. So not only we see the cathedral as it was planned and not altered throughout the centuries by other architects or fires, etc., but also we see the decor with the windows that was created at that time and not fantasized centuries later on.
And this one is half clean or half renovated, restored. What about what else we're going to see elsewhere today?
We're going to see Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which has been fully restored inside. And here what I think is interesting is it's kind of a behind the scene of what has happened in Notre Dame, because the nave is perfectly clean, but the aisles are still dark somehow. And we're also going to see the Sainte Chapelle, which was renovated in the early 2010-12, and where the stained glass are the most extraordinary.
So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'll be jumping on the microphone with you at different stops along the way. I'm also going to be I got a new zoom on my new camera. I'm going to be doing some zoom-ins. Some amazing.
You're pretty excited about it, yeah.
Super excited about it. So I'm going to be sharing videos of this as well on social media and so on. But Bertrand, show me some stained glass windows and some Gothic architecture.
Let's do it.
Bertrand.
Oliver.
This, if I may give my impressions of this cathedral, it has to be seen to be believed. It is really something incredibly stunning. From, firstly, the renovation, seeing it happen in real time, so half is so spectacular and white, like Notre Dame is now, half is yet to be done, puts this whole perspective on it. The stained glass windows have blown my mind. Also, the fact that when we walked in, I was like, was that the same thing we saw from outside? And you were like, yeah, well, it's because of the light. Can you explain that to me like I'm an idiot again?
Well, it seems like you've had a revelation here.
It's the Renaissance of Oliver as well.
It's the whole point of this type of architecture. From outside, it may seem grand and high and, big volumes. But when you go in, it strikes you, no matter what's your religious beliefs, but you walk in and it's a whole new perspective that you have, because the natural light, daylight, going through the stained glass windows create a world of thousands of people, and you're right, it's looking very much alive, especially when it's renovated like this. And so you can't take your eyes out of it, because it's all these details, and you just want to look continuously to each and every window.
Not just that, I think also these well-worn stone, like paved floor, not paved, what do you call them? Big, massive stones that are all over the floor that have been walked on for 800 years, adding this sort of well-trodden pilgrimage site, holy vibe as well, And then you point out something that I think we talked about it when we were standing in front of it, with the veil of Mary. The veil that Mary allegedly wore is in a very grand golden sort of display at the back. And I was very struck that there wasn't a big ding ding, okay, this is going to sound wrong, obviously, but like a big ding ding ding, Las Vegas, look here, it's the most understated holy garment surely in the world. The benefit of having a guide to point it out. But that made this whole place and still is a pilgrimage site, huh?
Well, actually, if we have a cathedral like this, it's because we have this veil. This veil, it's a relic. So again, whether you believe or not, but it is the same piece of fabric that has been worshipped as the veil that Mary wore when the Archangel Gabriel came to ask if she would bear the Son of God. And it's been worshipped as such since the 5th century. So 1500 years that people have crossed countries to go and see it. It was offered to Chartres in 876, and thousands, if not millions of people have walked to Chartres to see and worship it, which has created the economics in a way, and the wealth to build such a beautiful cathedral. So it's almost as if this cathedral is a reliquary for that. But you're right, they don't point to it. It's just people know it's here. And still today, there are dozens of pilgrimage every year to go to Chartres to pray for by the Veil of Mary.
And that's also why they made it so big here. That's what I was reading.
Yeah.
Because there was such a large amount of people coming just to see that. But I visited this place years ago. I didn't even notice it. So it shows that it's not exactly... I mean, if you know, I suppose.
That's true.
What about... we had an interesting conversation about the ethics behind a restoration or a renovation. If I hope the listeners will allow us to get a little bit nerdy here, because it's quite a fascinating idea. Here they haven't renovated it to be exactly as it was. A perfect example right behind you. They've left bits of paint where these huge columns were painted, but now they're this blonde white color. You said something interesting about Viollet-le-Duc, the architect and the rebuilder of most of France at this time. He didn't want to build things the way they were. What's the story there?
The restoration of Gothic churches that happened along the 1800s was made with a different state of mind than what we are doing now. Today we're doing it in a more scientific way, a more scientific approach, while back then it was more, I would say, an historical approach. Let me explain. Here in Chartres, Notre Dame Cathedral of Chartres, the roof burned in 1835. And instead of rebuilding it as it was, they decided to use more lasting materials or more efficient materials as they thought. So instead of rebuilding the roof of wood and then lead, they used iron and copper. Okay, Notre Dame of Paris roof, 200 years will burn, and it was decided to rebuild it as it was. With the ethos of Viollet-le-Duc and the restoration of the 1800s, they want to complete the work that was started in the medieval times, in a way, kind of making it better or making it as close as possible to the dream of the original builders, even though that's not what they built, but that's what they aimed. Well, so there's a more historical and philosophical approach to it. Today, we're more careful, and I call it more scientific. It's because restoration is trying to clean first, to alter as little as possible, but just to clean and replace by something almost similar in terms of material, in terms of design, to what it was before. So we don't allow ourselves to recreate, but to restore.
And then the whole next discussion will be what AI will do to fixing broken heads of statues and so on. But that's a conversation for next time as the school group comes in behind us. We're going to go see the old town of Chartres now.
Let's do it.
That was quite a town. Chartres. Totally worth, even if you're not into cathedrals. I thought that old town was really lovely.
It is, right? I'm glad you liked it.
I think you're gladder still because we got to go to the museum there. Was that your first time?
Yes, I have to confess. But I think it was very great the way they explain how the stained glass are made. It was great because it showed you that what I told you was correct. And I'm not sure I was in love with the contemporary.
No, let's be honest here. You said out loud, I'm not in love with this. Like downstairs, so it's the Stained Glass Museum of Chartres, right by the cathedral.
And school, and
where people can go and learn how to do it. But it's like a year-long course. It's not like a 1-hour workshop.
No, it's a lot of secrets to learn and to master.
Sure, but it was interesting. Downstairs, they had. Firstly, the downstairs was insanely beautiful.
Yeah,
these like vaulted ceilings.
Building from the 1200s with crossed, beams on the ground floor. And a stone vault on the basement.
Yeah, when she said go down to the basement, I didn't have any expectations, but just the basement alone, honestly, worth the price of entry. Except they had, it's funny after we were talking about restoration and all this, is that they had these modern stained glass, which looks kind of like you spilled a glass of wine on a piece of glass.
And you can't clean it.
Yeah, although I'm sure there are people that are big fans of it. But then in terms of the old town itself, Chartres,
Yeah, it has this charm of these crossbeam houses, the little stone bridges of the river, and you see how the cathedral fits within the city. I love when we have this type of views where you see that the cathedral is almost, sharing walls with the town or the village in which it's located. It's not an isolated building, not at all. It fits very well in the city.
Yeah, and it's I thought you could argue it was not a very colourful town, but it was also kind of colourful in places, you know what I mean? Like it had that medieval feel about it, stones everywhere, exposed wooden beams, but then sometimes they had those pastel-y, pale, not like in the Côte d'Azur, but like these pastel-y...
No, of course, but it has this charm of a historical town. It's not a big city and, it's all electric in there, but it's so close to Paris. It's, I like going there for a lunch and...
Good segue, because before we jump on the train, the lunch I thought was pretty good. Do you recommend it?
Yes.
Do you remember the name?
Café Serpente, and the desserts were just fantastic.
That's another of those places that in French it sounds very sort of lovely, but if it was called the Snake Cafe, it just doesn't work in English. It doesn't work. It feels like something that you'd find where it's like a museum.
It's because we all are poets in this country.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it. Speaking of poetry and art, we're off to Paris to see what was once the most important form of art, I learned, architecture.
Architecture and mastering the recipe of transforming the matter into art shape, which is stained glass making. And so I want to take you to the Sainte Chapelle in the middle of Paris on the city island, built right after Chartres. So we are in the 1240s, to see the mix of Gothic architecture and glass window making at its best, and how, contrary to Chartres, in the Sainte Chapelle it's a little bit more connected to politics.
Okay, I'm excited to hear it. Is there going to be a big queue?
Not with me. We're going to jump the line.
That's why I like you, Bertrand. Let's do it. I've got to say, Bertrand, skipping that queue made me feel like Jay-Z, which makes you Beyonce.
I thought you were to say Jesus.
No. But that was cool. And now we've come into this Gothic masterpiece, where, as I understand, the stained glass windows is, what is it, the best in the world?
Yeah, best in the world. What is so unique with the Sainte Chapelle is that although it's not the volume of the Cathedral of Chartres or of Paris or any other cathedral, it's a private chapel for the king in his palace, so space is quite constrained, but it feels like there is no more stone making the walls, and instead it's just pure stained glass.
Right.
You see, we have a hard time. I mean, if you know that it's there. We saw it from outside, that there are pillars, there's stone, there's metal bars and all, but with all this amount of stained glass around us, it feels like we've left this world behind and we are in heaven.
So, and you're talking, so to set the scene for everybody at home, we're downstairs now. We're yet to go up to the stained glass section. There's still some stained glass windows down here, but this lower area, what is this? So on the ground floor, there's La Chapelle Basse, so the lower chapel, which was where the staff and the nobility living in the royal palace was allowed to go to pray. It's used for a daily basis, I would say. Architecturally speaking, it is used as a foundation to then elevate on solid ground the Haute Chapelle Haute, or higher chapel, which is the one where the king would come to worship the relics of the Passion of Christ that he purchased, and also to show the stained glass windows to his most important visitors. Okay, and so this makes this another pilgrimage site.
Yes, but the difference with cathedrals is that this one's not open to the public. Today it is, because it is a museum. It no longer is a consecrated chapel. But back then, There was no pilgrims coming to the Sainte Chapelle to see the relics and have prayers and make donations, etc. No, it's a ultra VIP chapel.
And one thing that I'm astonished, like truly astonished, that you said that this is built in 6 years.
Yeah, 1242.
I thought you did a typo when you said it.
No, 6.
Local
like,
typo.
Like 5 plus 1. Yeah.
Because, the Chartres was 20, 30 years. Notre Dame was...
And Chartres is a record in terms of how quickly it is built.
That's what I mean. And we started there, so I was like, it's got to be,
But it's not the same size. And also, this is what the king wants, so there's no shortage of money.
Right.
And this is built shortly after Notre Dame de Paris and Notre Dame de Chartres. So the techniques that were somehow being experimented for about 50, 60 years are now mastered. And here they will innovate, but innovate on a ground that they are familiar with. All these crossed beam vaults, this ogive structure, they know how it works. They've tested it before at a grander scale, so here they can just build.
Wow. What about, we're not going to be able to record when we go up to this stained glass section upstairs, because I know they shush people up there.
Yes, correct.
Have you been shushed?
Every time I come.
So before we go up, maybe you can tell me what to expect, why it's so important, and then I've got another question where I want you to get poetic. But first, what can I expect upstairs? There's people listening who've never been or who've thought the queue is too long to come in here.
Honestly, I've been a guide for 15 years. Every time I take people to the Sainte Chapelle, I make sure that I go myself first in this very tiny spiral staircase, just so I can see their face when they enter the chapel for the first time. And usually I have to help them pick their jaw on the floor because it's just so beautiful.
Literally jaw-dropping.
Jaw-dropping, yes. It's, imagine as if you walk in a room and it feels like you've been miniaturized and you've been placed in a diamond. The colors are everywhere. It's not like you're looking at a window. It's everywhere. It's blue, it's red, it's yellows, and it's flamboyant characters from the floor to the ceiling. There's nothing like it.
What about, to continue the stained glass description, because that was so lovely, this plus Notre Dame plus Chartres Cathedral, what is it that makes this stained glass so brilliant for you personally?
So Chartres, we've seen it. It's the fact that it's the closest to what original medieval churches would look like. And in Chartres, the invention of this blue color to represent Mary, and then the divine, and then all emblem of royalty. In the Sainte Chapelle, it's I'd say the percentage of glass per square foot in a way, and the fact that we are here combining the illustration of the Bible and a political program to show that the King of France should be considered as a new emperor leading Christendom, and how the religion and the power are mixed together in some kind of a alchemist fusion in a way, and you're just blown away when you go here, and even more for the first time, and even more back then. You would think that, okay, there is something holy here, and so the man who has it must be connected to God.
And what about Notre Dame?
Notre Dame is the saved cathedral first. So it's the one that has a perfect balance of every item in terms of size, in terms of stained glass windows, in terms of medieval stained glass windows, but also neo-Gothic and contemporary ones. It's the one where you see that there's a continuity of craftsmanship and also of worshipping for 900 years in a row.
Okay, on to Notre Dame next, but first...
Let's go up. Yeah.
You want to go first?
I won't pick up your jaw.
speak inside this chapel, but I wanted to give you an idea of how quiet it is in here. But also, I have to say, there was a moment when I was looking up into the sort of top right corner, and the light just sort of came from behind the clouds and didn't just shine through these stained glass windows, but reflected all the colors onto the ceiling of this building. So multiple colors just shining like a rainbow, like a kaleidoscope, all over the blue and gold starred ceiling. And by God, if I wasn't a fan of stained glass windows before, it's just happened. Sainte Chapelle, incroyable. Now we've a short walk, really, from Sainte Chapelle.
Yeah, about 4 minutes?
4 minutes, and then there's a queue at the front of Notre Dame that was maybe 100 meters long.
And it took us 6 minutes. We were there at 4:13, and when we started the line, and at 4:19 we were inside the cathedral.
Amazing, and someone cut in front of us as well.
Yes, I guess others, but we didn't see.
This point is you don't need to cut in because it goes quick, everybody. But as I mentioned, I just sort of went on the camera by myself on the microphone to say that the light was coming through in Sainte Chapelle, and then as we walked from Sainte Chapelle to here, the sun really came out for the first time properly today, and you kind of started running.
Yeah.
Tell me, why?
Because it's the first time I see Notre Dame with sunlight, with actual, not daylight, actual sun rays piercing through the windows since it has reopened.
Coming from the south.
Burn, actually.
And it was, as we walk, you saw these long shadows on the street from people walking by in the cars and everything, so you knew that the light would be coming right through these south-facing windows, I guess.
Exactly.
And then as we came in, seeing the kaleidoscopic reflections on the wall, these blonde walls, something dreams are made of.
I've been a guide for 15 years. The first place I started to give tours is Notre Dame Cathedral, and for the first time I could see the reflection of the stained glass window on the walls properly, ever.
And that's also, you're so excited. That's also because the walls are being cleaned.
Yes,
because it would have been impossible.
All of it. The entire cathedral has benefited from the fire. It was a tragic fire, but now we have a cathedral that has been fully restored, cleaned, all the walls, all the stained glass windows. So it's exactly like it was in the 1240s, 1250s when the rose windows were changed. It's spectacular.
One benefit that we didn't have in the 1250s is I've got my ultra zoom camera.
Yes.
And I'm standing here, so it's hard to even describe, but like in some places the sun's on such an angle that it's shining through the stained glass sort of arched windows directly onto an arched, I don't even know what you would call that, but like a hollow in the wall next to it, filling a brick wall with light, as if there's a window there as well.
It was. I told you to do that.
You told me to film it? You've been standing over my shoulder watching this Zoom. Just a reminder, I'll be putting all those things on social media. But in terms of Notre Dame, you've been coming here for 15 years as a guide. How important do you think the stained glass windows are as part of this building?
They are a key to understand this type of architecture, and so this cathedral. I was pointing at one of the windows, which is representing the bishop who commissioned the construction of Notre Dame back in the 1100, Maurice de Sully. He is part of this group of theologists who really believe that to worship God, you need to understand this principle, fiat lux in Latin, that means let there be light. So it's because of the light that you understand the work of God's creation, which we are part of. And so they completely rethink the way to enter through churches. So they think of techniques to have large windows. I don't know if what I'm saying
makes sense. Yeah.
So it's the whole ideas of crossed beams, vaulted ceiling, counterweight, flying buttresses, and all of that are just answers to the issue, which is I want to have huge windows. And seeing Notre Dame today with 100% of the windows cleaned in and out of all the dirt, of all the pollution, it reveals Notre Dame to anyone, but to me for the first time. I understand much more the cathedral today than I've been for the last 15 years.
And is there, as a final question, is there a particular corner or a particular window that you like more than the other ones that people should seek out when they come here?
I like the high window in the choir. We're actually standing under them or in front of them on the other side.
We're just standing with our arm on a we're just casually. I wonder if anyone's wondering what we're doing here. Just in the back of Notre Dame recording a podcast.
I think, the ones you see the most are the one on the collateral chapels, which are almost at a human height because you're face to face with them. But my favorite one is the ones you see if you start to look up, because it's, again, all this architecture, everything we've seen today is to look up, forget about earthly life, project yourself in heaven. And it's when you start looking up, look at that, the sun is going through the windows as we speak, that you are kind of attracted to the heights and so to heaven.
Very well said, Bertrand. Thank you for taking me around the stained glass Gothic revival parts of Paris and Chartres today.
My pleasure.
If people want to do exactly the same tour, is this tour literally something that you offer, or are we off script today?
We're off script, but I think the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow in the office is to create a pitch for this.
Stained glass tour, Gothic revival. So that goes to show everybody, if you're looking to do a tour in Paris or beyond with My Private Paris, don't limit yourself to the obvious things. Be limited only by your imagination and that of Bertrand and his team. Thanks for taking me around, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Oliver.
Links are all below. myprivateparis.com is the quickest way to get there. And details of where we've been will be in the show notes below. And keep an eye on all the social media channels for these beautiful pictures from today. That'll do for me, standing inside the very back of Notre Dame Cathedral on a beautiful sunny afternoon. This is Oliver G. signing off, wishing you a lovely week.